we're joined by a good friend of ours, someone that I'm going to put up on the screen right now for our audience that's watching. This is the cover of American Lawyer magazine. It says, "Defending the New Civil Disobedience," and it's a picture of a very young Jay Sekulow and a very young Randall Terry, who was the leader of Operation Rescue, which made national news and brought the abortion issue really to the forefront again, and it was not. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Operation Rescue and Randall Terry. It was aggressive legal action in those days. It was social protest and the tradition of civil disobedience, and Randall is in Washington right now. You know, Randy, you and I talked, you were in our office a couple weeks ago, and we talked about, we didn't know if we were going to live to see the day that Roe versus Wade would be overturned, and here we are now celebrating the first, I can say celebrate, the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Dobbs. What's the reaction in Washington right now? I know you're there at the march.
I appreciate it, Jay. People, one day we'll be able to tell the stories, but
Yep.
Man, oh man, I'd have been in a lot of trouble if it wasn't for you and the ACLJ, so thank you.
Sure.
People here are really excited because it is the first march where Roe is dead. And the theme for a lot of people is that we're dancing on the grave of Roe versus Wade. But there's also a sense of sobriety because now we have a big fight ahead of us. In my opinion, overturning Roe was a massive victory, and it was similar to taking Normandy Beach in World War II. Normandy Beach was a critical victory that had to happen if the Nazis were going to be defeated. But it wasn't the end of the war. The mission for the Allies was to get to Berlin. And our mission is now the long, hard, controversial work of giving the full protection of law to babies from conception until birth. So it's joy mingled with a sense of duty and obligation, and that we've got our work cut out for us.
You know, it's very interesting, Randall, that you said the controversial work of supporting the life of the child from conception to birth. Now, CC House here, our senior counsel at the ACLJ, does a lot of pro-life issues. I want to think about that for a moment, because Randall's right. That's deemed controversial. But isn't that still sad, that protecting life of the unborn child until delivery is controversial?
Yes, and I would go even further, that with Democrats, it's even controversial once the baby is born, because as we saw, the Republican Congress tried to introduce a bill that said once a baby is born from a botched abortion, there is a requirement to actually provide medical care for that child, and the Democrats voted down party lines not to allow that. So they don't, not only do they not care about the baby while it's in the womb, they don't care about that baby once it's born. Abortion rules supreme.
Yeah, so Randall, you're right, but the fact that it's deemed controversial says something in and of itself.
My encouragement to your listeners is this. The scriptures teach us that we're going to have conflict in this world. We're going to have tribulation. And the last 15, 20 years has had so much push on us of tolerance and diversity and multiculturalism and don't hurt people's feelings, don't say anything that might offend someone. We have to get over that, and we have to be willing to say, here I stand. I can do nothing else. Babies are made in the image of God. They deserve the protection of law, and we are not going to equivocate. We are not going to back down. Right. We're not going to apologize, and we're not going to stop fighting.
Do you sense, Randall, you're there? I mean, so it's obviously it's got to be, I mean, you're there, and we're here later from Jordan, who's in our studio in D.C., just arrived. It's got to be a different feeling than in previous ones, though, right? I mean, there's got to be a different sense.
There is. Although it's interesting, there's way fewer people here this year.
Yes.
And I think that some people are saying, you know what, we won this battle, and maybe they'll start to have marches on the day of Dobbs.
I said that in our pre-meeting today, Logan. Exactly what Randy just said. That the day of the march should be the day that Roe was overturned. That to me is, I think that may have been a fundamental issue here.
Yeah, maybe that is what it needs to move to. One, better weather, people can show up. Also, you have situations where we are in an interesting time because, yes, 7 months ago, you had a historic win, and then you had a pretty big revolt in terms of how the elections all turned out. So there's people coming at this who are not necessarily as inflated maybe as you want. And then there are, like you said, maybe people who are just like, hey, we won, moving on. And what we have to say is, no, this is not even close to over.
No, it's not close to over. Randy, you know what I say, Randy? It removed.
It's a huge win. I don't want to.
Yes, I don't want to undersell the win. I mean, Randy's right. It's a huge win because you
never
took
thought
the
it would
club of a constitutional right enshrined in the Constitution and you removed that club. Now, it did exactly what Justice Scalia said it would do. When you overturn Roe, it goes back to the states. But it's interesting you said the attendance was noticeably less, because I think that means the education of what this issue is becomes increasingly now, Randall, more important.
I want to ask your listeners, Jay, you know that we've just started production on a documentary on Operation Rescue.
Right.
And if people want to see the promo, they can go to my website, randallterry.com. You're in it, as you know. But the young people of this era are different than when you and I were young. And for me, it's not just that they have to be educated on the value of life and that human life begins at conception. We know that. The issue is that young people have got to be taught to have the courage of the early church, to have the courage of being, I am a disciple of Christ and I will not equivocate. I won't back down. I'm going to fight for these babies and I'm going to get involved in the state legislatures. So my urging to people is, look, get involved in the political arena. When slavery was with us, there was a Monday in America where you could own a slave. And the following Monday, you could not.
Right.
And what changed was the law. This is going to take a legal change in all 50 states, and whether we do it through a constitutional amendment or through a federal law or state by state, whatever it is, we have to keep fighting, and we have to fight aggressively, courageously. We are the church militant. So I don't believe that big sit-ins are ever going to come back like we had back in the day.
No, that was a time and season, right?
Yeah, but what we do need is the courage. We need the clarity. We need to create the social tension, like Martin Luther King said. Social tension always precedes the change of the law. Like Jerry Falwell said, politicians don't see the light till they feel the heat.
Yep.
So
that's very, very true. Randall, we appreciate it. We're getting up on a break here. We appreciate it. Appreciate your insight and some powerful words. We appreciate it. Operation Rescue's founder has been involved in this movement for 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, randallterry.com has a trailer you can watch for his upcoming documentary about sort of the foundations of the movement. Very interesting time. But also people need to know they can speak out on social media like we broadcast this every day. That's also really a public forum. You have people coming in for free speech, but we know it's always tough. Look, we know without a doubt when we have a show on this topic, the numbers go down. Why? It's not because you're not interested in the topic. It's because it doesn't get served. We know this. This is like not even a speculation. We know certain words, certain topics, you're not going to be monetized. That kind of stuff happens. So to do that, you need to be able to stand up and speak out and be loud about it, because that is the public square at this point. And I know, look, preaching to myself too. You don't want to go on there and stir controversy because all of a sudden the heat is on you.
We just did. We had Randy on.
No, I'm saying when you go on your own personal social media pages, it's tough. It's tough to do it.
Yes.
But look, we come back. Jordan's joining us. Jordan's going to be live from Washington, D.C. So we're going to have a lot more coming up. Yeah, from our offices in Washington, D.C., right across from the March for Life. He's there right now. So go to aclj.org, again, to support the work of the ACLJ. Go to all our social media platforms. Follow, like, subscribe. Do all those things because we are always expanding. We couldn't do it without you. aclj.org. We'll be right back with Jordan live from Washington, D.C.